Hey there, I'm Verity Songon and this is the Confident CEO podcast, the show that takes you behind the scenes of starting and running your small or not so small business. We will cut through the misinformation and bad advice about starting and running a business and give you actionable tips and advice that you can implement to grow, scale and achieve your business goals. Let's dive in. Hello there and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Now, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for the next 12 weeks or so. We're still going to be having our regular podcast episodes being uploaded on Wednesdays, maybe Thursdays, some days, just seeing how the timing goes. But we're still going to be having our regular weekly episodes. I've got some amazing guests lined up for this month alone. I think I've got 5 people booked in. Just absolutely incredible. I'm so excited for these episodes to start airing later in the month and into February, because we are going to be diving into some amazing business backgrounds of individuals, how they have created, grown and scaled a multitude of different businesses, and real experts in their fields to just really give you business tips and tricks, which I'm really excited about. But for the next 12 weeks, I'm also going to be doing these bonus episodes, because if you are in the UK, then The Apprentice is back on TV. And anyone who knows me knows that I love The Apprentice. Absolutely obsessed with it. I've watched it I think I've watched every single series, and I've watched every single series probably multiple times. I absolutely love it. I love the reality TV side of it, but I also love the business bits that you can pick up, because some people say to me, oh, but Verity, it's not proper business. No, it really is. You can learn so much. And don't get me wrong, I realize that a lot of it, is put on for television and stuff, but yeah, I love it. So I thought, in the spirit of a bit of entertainment on the podcast, I'm going to be doing each week. So it'll either be put out on a Friday or a Saturday, these little bonus episodes of me just reviewing that week's episode of The Apprentice, just giving my thoughts on it. And yeah, I just thought it would be a bit of fun. But before we dive into that, I obviously want to put the disclaimer out there to say that I am not associated with the BBC in any way, The Apprentice show, the production company in any way, any of the candidates, anybody from like Lord Sugar, Karren Brady, Claude Littner's teams. I'm not associated with anything to do with the show. Nobody on the show knows me. I don't know any of them. So also on that point, nobody has endorsed this at all. This little series is purely being put together for entertainment value, but I really need to just put that disclaimer out there that I have no association with the BBC or any of the production companies, anybody who works on it, anything like that. So with that out of the way, I've got my notes, because yes, I have been making notes as I watched the episode, because I kind of knew that I was going to be doing this, or I had the idea of doing this. So I wanted to come in prepared. So these are my notes. And first of all, they kicked off the week with going to Antigua. I probably should have said at the beginning as well that if you have not watched the episode, if you want to watch the episode, I am going to be talking about the episode. Obviously, it's a review episode. It's a review show. So basically, don't listen if you don't want spoilers. But they started out in Antigua, and you know what? The first thing was that I thought right at the beginning was they're wearing exactly the same outfits in the boardroom as they did on the first day in Antigua. And it just got me thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, was it the same outfits, or did they get 2 of each outfit so that for continuity purposes? And it just kind of got me thinking about the whole setup of the show, because the makeup was the same, the hair was the same, and I was like, I'd love to know that. Did they have 2 of each outfit, or did they just have to be very prepped in having the same outfit? Anyway, I don't know why I thought that, but people, it was identical right down to, oh, what's her name? Oh, I need to click on and find out. The girl, Danny Donovan, who has got that amazing lip gloss. It kind of reminded me of, if you watched Great British Bake Off a few seasons ago, was it Candice? Was that her name? She had a different colour lipstick every single episode. And I'm intrigued to know whether or not Danny is going to have the same colour gloss every single week, or whether or not she's going to change it, if lip gloss is just her thing. I don't know why that stuck out to me, but it just did. And I've got to respect somebody who still wears lip gloss, because I also love lip gloss, despite people telling me that matte lipstick is in. I know nothing about fashion and makeup and what have you on that note. But yeah, got to respect her wearing the lip gloss. So that stood out to me. What I loved about this episode was that the whole thing just seemed to be centered around this argument as to whether or not they should go to the beach to pitch selling these tickets. I mean, personally, I would not have gone to the beach. I'm just going to say that I would have sat on the side of Emma and Shazia. I also agree with the rest of the girls that I didn't really like Shazia's idea of going and pitching at the airport, because when I get off a flight, maybe I'm thinking about this too much, like coming from the UK going to Antigua, that is a long flight. And the last thing I would want to be doing when I get off the flight is being asked for money for a day trip or something. The first thing I'd want to be doing is just getting to my hotel, getting myself grounded, knowing what's going on, probably getting a decent cup of tea as well. So I didn't agree with Shazia's idea of going to the airport, but I did agree with the principle of what Shazia and Emma were saying of not going to the beach. Because, again, when I'm lying on the beach, in my bikini most likely, or playing with the kids, the last thing I want is a group of women who are very well groomed and very well dressed up approaching me if I'd like to buy tickets for a day out when I'm already on a day out at the beach. And with me, probably most likely with kids as well. I mean, I know that, families were not their target market, but it's not really what I want at the beach. I don't really like being sold to though, so maybe I'm just not their ideal target person anyway. But I think also they knew that they were onto a bad thing. I mean, did you see the bit where they were approaching people who were swimming in the sea to ask them if they wanted tickets to their catamaran tour? I mean, that to me just shows a bit of a level of desperation, that they are approaching people who are swimming. I mean, there is water blocking you, but you've got to admire their determination. They wanted that sale. They didn't get it, but they wanted it. The theme of the episode very much centered around this idea of disruption. And, I think it's a challenging one, because in previous series, I understand what I think was being said in the boardroom, that in previous series, Alan Sugar has turned around to candidates and said things like, you should have spoken up, you should have aired your views, you should have made your point that you were not happy with how the decision of the group was going. But at the same time, I do feel that Emma and Shazia took that too far. Obviously, it's all blown up for TV. We don't know what the actual conversations were. It's an hour's worth of TV, and only 30-40 minutes of that, if that, is dedicated to actually showing what happened on the task. So it's massively edited down. You don't know what all of the conversations in the background were and were leading up to that. But from what was shown, it did feel like they went really overboard with making the point, we do not agree with this, we do not want to be here to sell tickets, we don't think this is a good idea. It just felt very overboard. And to me as a viewer, I was like, yes, you made your point, I get it, but you're here as the team, you've just got to make the best of the situation, even if you don't agree with that. And I kind of felt as well that deep down Marnie almost agreed with this as well, purely because she said a couple of times, this isn't a great place, but we're here now. The whole team voted on it. It kind of felt like she was trying to convince herself, which is why she was saying it out loud. That thing where you say something enough times, then it becomes true for you. And I kind of felt like that's where she was at. I could be completely wrong, but that's where I was at with that feeling. And, it's one of those where disagreements are fine within a team. Within any team, you're always going to have disagreements. I mean, when a team first comes together, you've got the whole thing of storming, norming, forming, and then performing. And that's kind of like the process that a team goes through. And right at the beginning, they're still storming. And what that means is that as a group of people, they're still figuring out who's the top cat, who's the listener, who's the doer, who's the timekeeper, who's the, whatever role that you can come up with, who's the more the authority figure, who's the leader, who's the follower. They're still figuring out all of these different roles. And because of that, you're going to have more clashes. That's why at the beginning of The Apprentice, you see a lot more personality clashes and working relationship clashes than you do as the series goes on. And it's because everybody is still figuring each other out. And also they're big teams. So, it's a lot of, they're 8, 9, 10 people in a team. So it's a lot of people that have got to suddenly be thrown together, figure out in a very short space of time how they're going to work together and achieve this particular task. So you're going to find a lot of disagreements there. But the point is that disagreements in a team is absolutely fine, but it's keeping those disagreements to a constructive level. But then I guess it's also difficult because, tempers are running high and, nerves, anxiousness is running high and what have you, because, there's £250,000 at stake here, £250,000. I'd probably be pretty nervous and having my emotions run quite high. Plus, they've just flown in from the UK to Antigua. I'd be tired, and they're only doing it for a couple of days as well. So, the jet lag, you've got to appreciate that. But even so, there's a level of construction that needs to be going with any disagreements. And it's that skill, isn't it, of knowing when to drop a topic and when to just move on, which is very difficult for me to say. I'm a middle child. I am also the only girl in my family. I've got 2 brothers. So, I have always got to be right. I've always got to have the last word. I'm also a Virgo, so which means that I've also got to have the last word all the time. So, it's a bit rich. Anyone who knows me is probably thinking that's a bit rich, you saying you've got to know when to drop a topic and when to just move on. But I think, in business, when you're working in a team, sometimes you have got to know when to just sit back, sigh, and just go, do you know what? I'm moving on from this point. And I think that was very much the point of the boardroom that was being said at the end, is that, yes, Shazia and Emma spoke up, and particularly Emma spoke up, but it just felt like the point was being over-laboured, that they didn't think going to the beach was the right idea. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I never want to go to a beach again. But despite the fact that the beaches in Antigua looked amazing. So that was kind of my, my thoughts and reflections on the bulk of the episode. A couple of other mentions that I want to make. First of all, to Gregory. Oh my God. If that bloke is ever doing a history tour wherever he lives, I need to know. I need to go on that history tour. He was bossing it. He was owning it. And I just thought it was the best thing ever to listen to. I really, really thought that he saved that tour, particularly when, I can't remember his name, but he got asked what ocean or what are we looking at? And he was like, oh, it's the sea. I just thought it was brilliant. But yeah, Gregory, special mention to him. My other special mention is to Karren's kind of periwinkle jumpsuit. She had this periwinkle blue jumpsuit on for most of day 1 of Antigua, and I just thought it was stunning. That is not the kind of colour that I would normally wear, but I want that jumpsuit in my life. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, and it looked really, really good on her. So special mention to Karren's jumpsuit. And on that kind of summary and roundup, the ones that I am really excited to watch for this episode might change, or this series, might change by next episode. Who knows? But I've got 4 people who I am kind of watching and who I really like. The first one is Simba. I just think that I feel like he's got a lot of quiet confidence. I don't feel like he's one of those like shouty, make yourself heard, but I feel like he's got a good presence about him. I like Simba. I think he is definitely one to watch. The other person I like is Victoria. Despite the fact that she failed at her, her team failed at her first time as project manager, I actually quite like her. I think that she's got a fieriness in her, and I feel like she's one of those people who, how every series there's at least one person who gets to the later weeks where the panel all decide that actually that person has changed a lot and they have taken on board a lot of feedback. I feel like she's one of those people. I feel like she's got a lot in her to offer, and she maybe just needs a bit of mentoring around that. So I think Victoria is my other one to watch. Gregory, I just love him for the entertainment value. Don't get me wrong, I'm interested to see what his business plan is. I'm interested to see how he manages a team and all that. But I just think he is great. I feel like he's somebody I would definitely get on with. And if he's doing a history tour, I will be there. And my final one to watch is Rochelle. She's the girl who referred to herself as the Kim K of the business world, which did confuse me slightly because, Kim Kardashian is a businesswoman as far as I'm concerned, because she owns multiple businesses and she's multi-millionaire. And yes, okay, there's a lot of arguments as to whether or not, how self-made it is, the family influence, yada, yada, yada. Not getting into that. The point is, though, in my opinion, Kim K is a businesswoman, but I like Rochelle. I liked how she seems to just be able to think on her feet. She seems to have quite a lot of confidence, but again, she seems to be quite constructive in how she delivers that confidence and how she delivers feedback. I really liked when she was on the second beach and it was obvious that, nothing was really happening with the photographs, and she just jumped in. She completely just pulled that out of the bag as far as I was concerned. And yeah, I like Rochelle. I'm really interested to see how she how she performs when she gets her turn to be project manager. I say when they get to be there, Simba, Victoria, Gregory and Rochelle, when they get to be project manager, or if they obviously get that far in the process to have that opportunity, because we don't know what's going to happen in week 2, who's going to be PM and going forward. But Simba, Victoria, Gregory and Rochelle, those at the moment, after watching one solitary episode, those are my 4 that I'm watching. And I would love to know, what did you think of last night's episode of The Apprentice? Let me know in the comments below. If you're watching it on YouTube, obviously. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening onto the podcast instead, let me know on Instagram at @VeritySongon. I would love to know who your people are. Do you agree with me that Simba, Victoria, Gregory and Rochelle are the ones to watch? Or did you actually really hate them? Not hate them, that's a bit strong, but did you really dislike them? Are there other people that you feel are the ones to watch instead? I would love to know what you think. And I'm excited for next week's episode. Also the episode of You're Fired, because I love Tom who presents that. I think he's brilliant. And I'll see you next week when we review episode 2 of series 17 of The Apprentice. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Confident CEO podcast. Before you go, I would absolutely be overjoyed if you could take just 2 minutes to leave me a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews are a great way to tell Apple Podcasts how much you enjoyed the show, and it helps the algorithm to push out the podcast to more people, thereby helping us to help empower even more badass businesswomen to grow their inner CEO and grow to be the confident CEO of their business that they can be. I love to shout you out in your reviews as well. So you never know, you might be hearing your name on the podcast in the next episode. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.